Have you ever noticed that the most impressive person in the room, the one with the highest GPA, the most degrees, the sharpest analytical mind, is often not the wealthiest? That the person who built a modest plumbing company or opened a chain of laundromats somehow retired earlier and more comfortably than your friend who spent a decade earning a PhD? This is not a coincidence. This is not luck. This is a pattern so consistent and so measurable that ignoring it would be intellectually dishonest. Today, we are going to pull apart exactly why intelligent people so frequently end up financially average or outright poor, while people who never impressed anyone in school quietly accumulate the kind of wealth that buys real freedom. And I want to warn you up front, some of this is going to be uncomfortable to hear, especially if you have spent years believing that being the smartest person in the room automatically means something in terms of your bank account. But first, subscribe to our channel. Let me start by asking you a question. When you were growing up, what did it mean to be smart? Think about that for a second. In school, smart meant you answered correctly. It meant you memorized faster, followed instructions more precisely, performed better on structured evaluations, and impressed teachers who were themselves operating inside an institutional framework. The label smart was handed to children who were excellent at operating within rules that already existed. And that early labeling does something deeply psychological to a person. When you are repeatedly told you are intelligent, your entire identity starts to organize itself around being right, being accurate, and being the person who has the best answer. That identity feels wonderful inside a school. But the real world, and especially the financial world, does not function like a classroom at all. Here is the brutal truth about what school actually trains you for. School rewards compliance. It rewards pattern recognition inside fixed systems. It rewards delivering the correct answer within predefined constraints. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with those skills in their proper context. But wealth creation operates on an entirely different logic. Building wealth rewards risk tolerance, persuasion, leverage, the ability to make asymmetric decisions under uncertainty, and the willingness to act before you have complete information. These are not the skills that get you gold stars in third grade. These are skills that schools rarely teach and that intellectually conditioned people often find uncomfortable, even embarrassing to practice. Now here is where it gets really interesting. When intelligent people face decisions that involve significant uncertainty, they do something that feels completely rational to them. They analyze, they research, they build mental models and run through scenarios. They identify every possible way something could go wrong. And because they are genuinely smart, they can generate a very long list of reasons why any given opportunity might fail. The regulatory environment, the competitive landscape, the economic timing, the execution risks, the legal liabilities. The average person considering the same opportunity might only see 2 or 3 of those risks because they simply lack the analytical depth to generate the full list. And here is the strange irony. That limited vision sometimes becomes an advantage because they move forward. They start the business, they buy the property, they take the imperfect shot. The intelligent analyst is still at the whiteboard 6 months later, improving the model. This is not bravery versus cowardice. This is not stupidity versus wisdom. This is what happens when intelligence becomes a barrier instead of a tool. The same cognitive ability that should help you build wealth instead becomes a very sophisticated engine for generating reasons to stay exactly where you are. Let us talk about employment because this is one of the most important structural traps that intelligent people walk directly into with their eyes open. Smart people are extraordinarily employable. They solve complex problems. They optimize systems. They make organizations more efficient and more productive. And because they do these things well, they get rewarded. Stable salaries, professional titles, benefits, promotions, a sense of belonging to something important. But here is the structural ceiling that most intelligent employees never fully confront. No matter how brilliant you are at your job, your income inside employment is fundamentally capped. There are salary bands. There are budget constraints. There are hierarchical limits on how much any individual contributor can earn, regardless of how much value they create. Meanwhile, someone who owns even a modest business, nothing glamorous, maybe a small logistics company or a residential cleaning service or a franchise location, that person has something the brilliant employee does not: uncapped upside. If the business doubles, their wealth can double. If they open a second location, returns compound. Ownership scales in ways that employment simply does not. The intelligent professional optimizes a system they do not own. The average owner builds a system they control. And when you run those two trajectories out over 20 or 30 years, they end up in completely different places. Now let us address something that does not get discussed enough, which is the relationship between intelligence and status seeking. Highly intelligent people are drawn toward high-prestige careers. Medicine, law, academic research, advanced engineering. These fields demand rigorous cognitive performance and they deliver social respect in return. But social respect and scalable wealth are not the same currency, and they do not exchange at a favorable rate. The person who becomes a respected associate professor or a senior researcher at a prestigious firm may earn a comfortable salary and accumulate genuine admiration from their intellectual peers. But admiration does not compound the way equity does. The person who opened a franchise or started a plumbing company or bought their first rental property at 25 may earn zero respect at cocktail parties. Their work is not intellectually elegant, but their assets are growing quietly in the background while everyone else is managing their reputation. Society has trained us to confuse prestige with prosperity. They are not the same thing, and treating them as though they are is a financial mistake that plays out over decades. Let us talk about perfectionism, because it deserves its own examination. High intelligence and high standards are closely related. Smart people want to understand every variable before they commit. They want the product to be polished before they launch it. They want the credentials to be in place before they claim authority in a space. This sounds reasonable. It sounds responsible. But the market does not pay a premium for perfection nearly as much as it rewards timing, iteration, and persistence. The average entrepreneur who ships a mediocre product quickly, absorbs real feedback, improves the thing, and keeps moving is beating the brilliant perfectionist every single time in the real economy. The intellectually rigorous person waiting to launch version 5.0 arrives to find that someone with a rougher product and more courage already owns the customer relationship. Execution with imperfection beats analysis toward perfection. That is not a motivational slogan. That is just how markets actually behave. Another dimension worth exploring is social intelligence versus analytical intelligence. A significant amount of wealth creation depends on skills that have nothing to do with IQ in the traditional sense. Negotiation, persuasion, storytelling, projecting confidence, building genuine trust with other people over time. Many highly analytical individuals quietly dismiss these skills as soft or unsophisticated. Some even view networking as inherently manipulative, as though building relationships for professional advantage is somehow beneath them. But capital moves through relationships. Deals happen because someone trusted someone. Investment opportunities emerge from conversations that happen at dinners and introductions that come from mutual connections. The person who masters basic persuasion and maintains a wide, genuine network will access opportunities that the isolated analytical genius never even hears about. Intelligence without social leverage stays theoretical. Wealth requires actual transactions, and transactions are always human before they are mathematical. We should also talk about what extended education actually costs, not just in money but in time. Many intelligent individuals spend years in graduate programs, professional schools, doctoral programs. These are not worthless pursuits, but they carry a hidden cost that is rarely discussed honestly. While the graduate student is accumulating knowledge and debt simultaneously, their less academically inclined peers are already in the market. They are buying properties. They are building business equity. They are learning through real failures that compound into real experience. By the time the highly educated person enters the workforce, they may be starting with negative net worth, while someone they consider their intellectual inferior has already spent a decade accumulating assets. Time in the market matters enormously. The person who starts investing and building at 22 has a structural advantage over the person who starts at 32, regardless of who has the higher IQ. Let us examine the mathematics of this more carefully, because the numbers tell a story that emotion cannot argue with. A salaried professional, even a well-paid one, typically sees linear income growth. Raises, promotions, maybe a bonus in a strong year. These are incremental increases, additions to an existing line. Ownership grows differently. Equity appreciates. Businesses scale. Intellectual property generates passive returns. A 10% stake in something that triples in value has tripled your investment without tripling your labor. That is leverage. That is the mechanism through which wealth actually multiplies. The brilliant professional who doubles their productivity might receive a raise that amounts to a rounding error compared to what the average business owner captures when their business expands. Over 20 years, these two mathematical patterns, linear versus compounding, look nothing alike when you draw them out on a graph. There is also something worth naming about the relationship between intelligent people and the systems that trained them. Smart people succeed inside institutions. They master the rules. They earn the rewards. And in doing so, they develop something that might be called institutional trust. They believe that merit will be recognized because every experience they have had up to that point confirms that it will be. You studied, you performed, you were rewarded. So the assumption becomes that the broader economic system works the same way. But markets are not grading rubrics. Markets reward leverage and timing and distribution and network position and sometimes pure chance in ways that have nothing to do with who studied the hardest. The person who never fully trusted institutions, who was never deeply rewarded by them, may approach the economic world with fewer illusions. They do not expect to be graded fairly. They expect to find and exploit opportunity. That single difference in expectation produces wildly different behavior. Here is what all of this converges into. Smart people do not stay poor because intelligence is a disadvantage. They stay poor because their intelligence is being deployed in the wrong direction. The same cognitive power that could be used to identify undervalued assets, to build scalable systems, to negotiate favorable terms, to see market inefficiencies before others do, is instead being redirected into optimizing someone else's structure, managing someone else's risk, and perfecting someone else's product. It is not a capacity problem. It is an allocation problem. And where you allocate your intelligence determines your trajectory more than how much of it you possess. The uncomfortable reframe here is that building wealth is itself an intellectual challenge worth taking seriously. Understanding cash flow structures, analyzing asset appreciation, developing negotiation skills, building distribution, studying how capital actually moves through the economy, these are rigorous intellectual pursuits. But somewhere along the way, many intelligent people absorb the idea that focusing on money is unsophisticated or even morally questionable. That real intellect should be directed at more elevated concerns. And while that belief feels noble, it tends to produce people who are philosophically rich and financially dependent on a paycheck. So what is the actual path forward? It is not about abandoning intelligence. It is not about romanticizing ignorance or pretending that education has no value. The shift is about consciously redirecting that intellectual power toward ownership, leverage, and asymmetric opportunity. It means studying business the way you once studied for exams. It means treating negotiation as a learnable skill worthy of serious attention. It means tolerating the discomfort of ambiguity long enough for equity to accumulate. It means separating your identity from being correct in every moment and allowing yourself to iterate imperfectly towards something you actually own. The most powerful thing an intelligent person can do financially is stop asking which system they should optimize and start asking which system they should build or own a piece of. Because the architects of systems and the early positioned owners within emerging systems are where wealth concentrates, not in the employees who make those systems run more smoothly. So I want to leave you with one question that I genuinely want you to sit with after this video ends. Right now, in your actual life, is your intelligence working for you or for someone else? Is it building equity in something you own, or is it making someone else's asset more valuable? Because if the answer is the second one, the good news is that is not a permanent condition. It is a choice. And choices, unlike IQ scores, can change tomorrow. Let me know in the comments what you think. Have you noticed this pattern in your own life or in the people around you? I read every single comment, and the conversation that happens down there is genuinely one of the best parts of making these videos.